In this lesson, we're going to learn about ionic bonding. An ionic bond involves at least one metal atom and at least one nonmetal atom. In an ionic bond, one or more valence electrons are transferred from the metal atom to the nonmetal atom. This makes the metal atom become a cation, a positively charged ion, and it makes the nonmetal atom become an anion, or a negatively charged ion. After the transfer of electrons has taken place, Coulombic attraction is what holds the cation and the anion in close proximity. Because they have opposite charges, they are attracted to each other. So why would an atom lose or gain valence electrons? Well, the atom is able to exist at its lowest potential energy state when its outermost energy level is filled with the maximum number of electrons that energy level can hold. For most elements, this is going to look like the nearest noble gas because the noble gas elements do have their outermost energy level filled with the maximum number of valence electrons. And for many elements, this is either 2 electrons in the first energy level or 8 in an example is the second energy level. Such as in the case of hydrogen and helium. Both hydrogen and helium have 1 energy level and it's the first energy level. The first energy level can hold up to 2 valence electrons. So we say that hydrogen and helium try to satisfy the duet rule, having 2 electrons in the first energy level. Whereas if you take into consideration nitrogen or oxygen or fluorine, those atoms will satisfy an octet rule when they gain electrons, because nitrogen, oxygen, and fluorine's outermost energy level is the second energy level, and the second energy level can hold up to 8 valence electrons. So when nitrogen gains 3 electrons, or oxygen gains 2, or fluorine gains 1, all will have 8 valence electrons in their outermost energy level, just like neon, which is the nearest noble gas. Now there is an exception to this noble gas rule. The transition metals that are located in the D block will lose varying amounts of valence electrons in order to exist at their lowest potential energy state, and this does not necessarily mean that they have the same number of valence electrons as the nearest noble gas. So they do not satisfy the duet and the octet rule. Because they can lose varying amounts of valence electrons, it's also common for transition metals to take on a multitude of different charges when they become cations. For an example, iron can have a positive 2 charge as a cation. It can also have a positive 3 charge as a cation. Now, when we demonstrate an ionic bond with Bohr models, we want to make sure that we're using at least one metal atom and at least one nonmetal atom. So for this example, I'm going to show you an ionic bond using a lithium atom and a chlorine atom. Now, we're going to have to imagine that the inner energy levels are filled with the maximum amount of electrons that those inner energy levels can hold, and we're just going to focus on drawing the valence electrons because it's the valence electrons that are involved in bonding. So for lithium, it has 1 valence electron on its second energy level. So I'll draw that here. And then for chlorine has 7 electrons in its outermost energy level, so I will draw those 7. Now, in chlorine's case, it's going to need to satisfy the octet rule, because if it is going to fill its third energy level with the maximum number of electrons that the third energy level can hold, it's going to need 8, hence the octet rule. But it's missing 1. It has only 7 right now. So it needs to gain an electron to satisfy the octet rule, and when it does, then it will have the same number of electrons as argon, which is the nearest noble gas. So when lithium and chlorine bonds together, lithium is going to transfer its electron to chlorine, and what that's going to result in is chlorine now being an anion and lithium being a cation. So we show that by putting the Bohr models in brackets, and I'm going to give lithium a positive charge then I'm going to give chlorine a negative charge. Again, chlorine is a negative charge because now it has one more electron than it does protons. And lithium is a positively charged ion now because it has one less electron than the number of protons. Now we're going to demonstrate another ionic bond, this time with lithium and nitrogen, using a Lewis dot diagram. And we're going to show this using a before, during, and after table. So in order to draw a Lewis dot diagram, we always have to know how many valence electrons our elements have. In the example before, we said that lithium has one valence electron. So I'm going to show lithium's one valence electron like that. And nitrogen has 5. So when I draw the dot diagram for nitrogen, I'm going to put one electron on each side of nitrogen before doubling up. Now, if we think about what nitrogen needs in order to satisfy the octet rule, it looks like nitrogen is going to need three more valence electrons. And that's because there are 3 electrons here that are not paired up. So I'll show in blue the electrons that nitrogen is going to need in order to be able to exist at the lowest potential energy state. Now I'm going to erase those because that was just to show you what nitrogen needs. Now we have to ask ourselves, can lithium give nitrogen what it needs? Lithium only has 1 valence electron to give and nitrogen needs 3. So that means that we actually need 2 more lithiums for a total of 3 lithium atoms, because then nitrogen is going to be able to get the 3 valence electrons that it needs to satisfy the octet rule. So let's move on to the during aspect of this Lewis dot diagram table. So the during part is where we're going to show the valence electrons transferring to nitrogen. So I'm going to draw my 3 lithium atoms, each with their 1 valence electron. I'm going to draw nitrogen again with its 5 valence electrons. And now I can show the act of lithium transferring its valence electrons to nitrogen. Lastly, for the after, we need to show the charges that lithium and nitrogen have acquired now that there has been a transfer of electrons. So that means I'm going to put each of the lithium, now cations, in brackets, and I'm going to show that each lithium has a positive charge because it has lost an electron. It now has 1 more proton than the number of electrons. And I'm going to show nitrogen now, and this nitrogen, now anion, has achieved an octet of electrons, so I'm going to show the 8 valence electrons that it has. I'm going to put nitrogen in a bracket and show that nitrogen now has a negative 3 charge because it has acquired 3 additional valence electrons. And because we had to use 3 lithium atoms in order to give nitrogen the 3 valence electrons that it needed to satisfy the octet rule, we are left with this 3-to-1 ratio. So what that means is when we write the formula, we're going to write Li3N. And this is how you write the formula for lithium nitride. Now let's use Lewis dot diagrams to show the ionic bond that will take place between magnesium and oxygen. So for our before portion of the table, we're going to want to make sure that we show the valence electrons that magnesium and oxygen have. For magnesium, there are 2 valence electrons, and it doesn't matter where you put the 2 dots to symbolize the valence electrons for magnesium, so long as you don't put them on the same side, because as we know, electrons don't want to occupy the same orbital unless they have to, so go ahead and spread them out. For oxygen, we need to show 6 valence electrons, so I'll put 1 on each side of oxygen before I have to double up, and it'll look like this. And again, I have to ask myself, What does oxygen need in order to satisfy an octet rule? Or in other words, what does oxygen need in order to fill its outermost energy level with the maximum number of electrons that that energy level can hold? Well, the answer to that is 2 electrons. Oxygen needs 2 additional valence electrons to satisfy the octet rule. And we know that just by looking at the Lewis dot diagram, because I can see that there are 2 electrons here that are not paired up. So where I have put blue dots represents the electrons that oxygen needs. And then I wonder to myself, how many magnesium atoms do I need in order to give oxygen the 2 additional valence electrons? Well, I only need 1 magnesium atom because, as we can see, that the magnesium atom has 2 valence electrons and oxygen needs 2 valence electrons. So this is a perfect 1-to-1 ratio. So for the during, I'm going to show magnesium transferring those valence electrons to oxygen. And now we're ready for the after. And since magnesium has lost 2 valence electrons, I'm going to show that it has a positive 2 charge. And since oxygen has gained 2 electrons, I'm going to show that it has satisfied the octet rule and it now has 8 valence electrons in the second energy level, and it has acquired now a negative 2 charge. And since I only needed 1 magnesium and 1 oxygen, this is a 1-to-1 ratio, so I would write the formula as MgO, and that would be the formula for magnesium oxide.